brings me to my next thought. Have you ever met somebody that's never had like a real bad day? Like when you're driving and somebody's like in traffic and they're just like flipping you off and freaking out, and you're like, because honestly, I used to be that guy until I had like a really bad year, and now somebody cuts me off, I'm just like, meh, it's not that big of a deal, you know? Like you have such a bad thing happen to you, right? That like after that, nothing phases you, you know? You just like walk through it like, damn, it's really not that bad to get cut off, right? Like, and I've also cut people off, so, you know, unintentionally, but you know, it happens. So it's like people are just people. And I feel like that's a beautiful thing that you went through. Because in 2016, I originally was like, how could this happen to me? Blah, blah, blah. Now I look at it as a blessing. I'm like, damn, thank God 2016 happened to me, right? Like, so blessed that it did, because I learned so much from that situation, and it's honestly made my life a lot better, you know?
Yeah, I mean, those life-changing events are just, they can be such blessings. I think that's why so many of them that they're happening for so many people right now, because the challenge is the stimulation for us to grow or not to grow. So, like, man, when you tell me that story, like, oh my gosh, but first, like with the acne and going, the acne stick and going back to that again, is when you put that medicine on your face, like, I'm into some weird ass shit. Okay. And for me, like, I see we're playing a video game. Life is a video game. And the point of it is just to get better at playing the game. And so everything that happens to us is just trying to say, like, wake us up to get better at the game. So any dis-ease is trying to wake us up. So like cancer, like you said, one word that really piqued my antenna was anger. So like, I have my grandma. I'm so close to my grandma. I love her so dang much. And she's had cancer twice, breast cancer, and she just had lung cancer earlier this year. Breasts represent feminine energy, the feminine. So when she got that, there's this great book. It's a book I've given away more than any other book, called You Can Heal Your Life. And it's based on, again, energy and emotional energy. And in the back, in the index, she lists every dis-ease and its emotional program. So if you're running an emotional program like anger, resentment, shame, guilt, it manifests as dis-ease, because our natural state of being is that of peace and love and appreciation. So a dis-ease is just, it's your body, it's your higher self letting you know. It's like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, you've been holding on to this anger for a long fucking time. Okay, let's let it go and be at our natural state. If you don't want to, that's totally cool. But man, it'd be way better if you did. But then if we don't heed the lesson, if we don't heed the messenger that's coming, because the messenger or the lesson or the blessing is that experience, because only through having the experience can we learn the lesson that's contained in the experience. So we had the lesson, we had the experience, whether it be something so traumatic as, let's say, rape or murder, or the death of a child, like these deeply traumatic experiences that we might not learn the lesson for all. We might go through our whole entire life never having learned the lesson. But when these messengers come in the form of dis-ease, the body's yelling at us to say, oh my God, it's either learn this lesson or die from it. So when you got that diagnosis, just like with my grandma, when she first got breast cancer, I went over, gave her the book, sat down with her and says, do you have any deep-seated resentments or traumas regarding your being a woman? And she started crying, and just I could tell, like, so much bottled up inside that was not ever properly expressed and released, because we hold on to those emotions in our body for, oh my God, our whole life sometimes. And then just earlier this year with the lungs represent grief. So how much grief are we holding on to that we don't properly process? Because we live in a culture where it's like, you gotta hustle, gotta grind, this person died or this thing happened, but breakup, business crumbled. Just gotta keep hustling, can't take time to process that. Just gotta keep on moving forward, rather than we are here to learn those lessons. So be in that grief, be in that emotion and process it and learn the lessons and let go. And same thing I said to her is, do you have any grief? Because, just, maybe a month earlier, her sister, she's had 2 sisters murdered. One by her own son. The other was severely mentally handicapped and was murdered by the orderly at the mental health place. So just deep, deep trauma that she's gone through. And when I asked, do you have any grief that you've been holding on to? Oh, she started crying. And I could just feel the grief. I could just feel right now. Is that, and those are the lessons that when they pop up, it's the body, it's the physical manifestation just saying, hey, guess what, guys? We did not come here to make money and buy shit and fucking party and fucking do this stuff. We came here to learn lessons so we could evolve as spiritual beings on this infinite, eternal game that we're playing. And so we manifest these experiences and they happen and we either learn the lesson or we don't. But to the whole thing, it all comes around like, oh my gosh, I see when you guys sit here, you guys have this business. And for me, I see that like to me, it's deeper than just like this product that you use to clean your face, It's a medicine. But then even hearing your story, like there's just it's so deep, there's just so much going on. Oh my gosh, there's my tangent for the day.
You just don't know what all the variables are and how they affect people's lives differently.
Right.
Because I remember when we were there, we drove past the children's hospital, and I was thinking about that's, I think, like the moment of the moment that my whole perspective got challenged, because I believe that was kind of the only way, was that everything was emanating from me on the inner out is why I was sick. And then that's when I realized like the deep level of complexity within the game that you play, because like there are children that are born with cancer. Mm-hmm. And how do you, if you have a child and that child is born and they die at age 2 or 3 from complexity of something like that, we can say a lot of things about, well, that child might have wanted that, or whatever, we brought these things into manifestation. But also I think there's elements of like, there is stuff that we understand and stuff that we don't understand. And if you really believe in like unity, you believe that like manifestation and chaos are one, and that it's all like intentional and helpful. And so some things can't be like logically explained as I wanted this experience because of X, or I needed to heal from this experience because of Y. It's more just like, you got this experience to experience. Because I have a really hard time with the notion, with young children, that like there's something that's deserved in that situation. Or when I look at like extreme war and like what continuously happens, there's an element to me that understands how we bring certain elements of like colonization and genocide and all these things upon ourselves. But there's also elements where like there are just like third-party actors that act, and there are people who didn't manifest this in their lives who end up being the innocent bystanders of something, and their life totally radically changes overnight in ways that like, none of us in this room can really like fathom. And I think that is like where to me that complexity comes in, is like there's the game that's being played on an individual level, but there's also the game, if you think about video games, because I play a lot with my son, like you there is like your decision making, but there's also like factors that aren't based on your decision making. So like we play Breath of the Wild a lot. You can choose a lot of like the different elements of like what clothing you're gonna wear, and are you gonna fight these monsters or run away, or are you gonna do this? But like you don't pick when the monster shows up. You don't pick like there's a lot of things in which you do not pick.
They're still evil. Like is what it sounds like you're getting at is like there's still uncontrollable evil that like that humans don't really create.
Yeah, and like is it evil, or is that just like contextual? Like
Evil's subjective.
Evil's very subjective.
Yeah, so but even like that game, even whether it be the game of life or the video game that you're talking about, like the creators of the game, like its perfection is almost beyond our understanding, because if every piece of that code wasn't properly put in the game, even the randomness, because the randomness is part of the perfection. Totally. So it's the randomness is an illusion. It's still part of the perfection. Because without it, like I see even the game we're playing, and to your point, like with the children that go through these incredible things, like the game that we're playing, it's so perfect. It's beyond our level of understanding. That's how perfect it is. Like it's so perfect. So like there can't be randomness, because even that randomness has to be a part of the perfection, or none of it exists. Like even in the video game, like the video game wouldn't even work if part of the code wasn't all perfect, you know?
Damn.
So it's like it's all an illusion.
But coding can also be like, you can apply randomness within coding too. Like you can say like, here's an event, don't create an exact timeline for it to show up, allow it to be a random event. So you can create randomness within coding.
All right,
you know.
But even that is part of the perfection of it.
Yeah,
that's what
it's one and the same. I don't think you can like tangibly take them apart. But my point is that not every point. I think as humans, like we just want to correlate everything together and make sense of everything because we want to know. And I think that like to a degree, like part of what you sign up for is like the fact that you probably aren't going to ever experience that in like, or understand that in totality. That's where faith comes in. And you're just kind of like, cool. I like give myself up to knowing that like, I don't know.